Hey guys, hello gorgeous. Back with another Transformers review, and today we're taking a look at G1 Bumblebee. And I have not done enough G1 Transformers reviews or a lot of other individual vintage toy reviews, so I'm going to make an effort to do a lot more of these G1 guys. I love the modern reinterpretations of them as well, but got to spend some time doing these guys. And I'm especially in a G1 mood lately because I'm working on the History of Transformers 1985 video, which is going to be epic. And I think I'm more excited for that one than anybody. I'm just so pumped every day to wake up and work on that history video, so I'm really looking forward to sharing that with all of you on the channel very soon. But in the meantime, I like doing these little mini reviews just so that you're not waiting a month for a new video. So, taking a look at G1 Bumblebee, this is not an original G1 vintage card. This is actually a KO repro card, which works for me because toys were never intended to be something that were very valuable to me. They were intended to be fun things, play things, inspiring things, and I don't attach a dollar sign to things that inspire me or are fun, really. It's kind of like buying a fidget spinner today and putting it in a glass display case and saying, but this is going to be worth a lot of money one day. So that just doesn't work for me. That's why I love these affordable KO reissues. G1 Bumblebee is available, the reissue, the actual official Hasbro reissue, is available at Big Bad Toy Store, along with a couple of other of the Walmart exclusive reissues. So if you want a reissue version, if you're like me and you want the original but at a much more affordable price and nice and clean and minty, then head over to Big Bad Toy Store. Great packing, great customer service there. Love those guys. So before we take a look at an actual real authentic G1 Bumblebee, we're just going to take a look at this card here. You see it has the ages 5 and up. And this is one of the US cards. Growing up in Canada, we always had French along with English as well, so it's cool to have one that just has English on it, since I'm from English-speaking part of Canada. And you get the classic Hasbro logo on there. That's cool. Some sort of assortment number there. Got a picture of Bumblebee and an actual picture of the toy, but original toy artistry there, card art. And he's in robot mode on the card, and he doesn't have his Autobot symbol. So that probably has something to do with being a KO. And on the back here, we see a shot of the 85 back of the box art, actually, instead of the 84. Should be the one with Optimus Prime, but it's 85 for some reason, I guess from the 85 reissue of Bumblebee. And you see instructions here on how to transform him. Us G1ers don't need instructions, right? But he's very simple. It's very easy transformer to transform. You gotta love this. Because the mini bots were so much more affordable, basically the price of a G.I. Joe. Half a robot point. You don't even get a full robot point. You get a half a robot point, which you can use for various Transformers mail-away offers. And here we see his tech specs, as they're called. So by holding one of these red tech spec decoders up, these were included with all of the boxed Autobots and Decepticons, you can reveal Bumblebee's stats. It's decipherable without the decoder, but what's really cool about this gimmick is that it reveals this graph line even more thoroughly. And this is actually a really good card. Sometimes with these KO cards, this doesn't show up very well, but that works really well. I don't have any G1 mini bots vintage cards, but I do have this original Huffer tech spec, and I mean, that it shows up a little better to the eye than on camera, but I would say that it actually looks better on the KO. Yeah, it's a lot more pronounced on the KO. I guess with the originals, they wanted it to be harder to decipher, but that was always a really cool gimmick about Transformers. They were all about disguise, robots in disguise, and I like that even their stats were disguised. So Bumblebee here we see he's not one of the strongest Autobots. It's near the bottom. He's pretty smart though, you have to be a spy. You'd think his speed would be a little higher, since that's what he has to make up for his lack of strength. Endurance is about average. His rank is pretty high, which makes sense because I always considered him, maybe not in rank, but in recognizability. I've always called Bumblebee the second place face of the Transformers, behind Optimus Prime for myself. And I actually got to tell Dan Gilvezan that a couple of years ago when I chatted with him at a toy convention, and I'm glad that he thought that was charming, the second place face. Courage, absolutely. 10 out of 10, no one can deny Bumblebee's courage. And his firepower is really low too, and his skill is about average. And the bio, which I think is just as important as the toy, because what good is a cool toy without a great character behind it? So Bumblebee's bio reads, function is espionage. And his quote is, the least likely can be the most dangerous. Which doesn't actually sound like Bumblebee from the G1 cartoon, but it is true, he is dangerous in his own way, in terms of espionage, spying. Kind of the Autobots version of Soundwave, or Soundwave's tapes. Small, eager, and brave, Bumblebee acts as a messenger and spy. Due to his small size, he dares to go where others can't and won't. He idolizes the bigger Autobots, especially Optimus Prime and Prowl, and strives to be accepted. He is the most energy efficient and has the best vision of all the Autobots. Now that's a really interesting point there. He has the best vision of them all. He can go underwater for reconnaissance and salvage missions. Although physically the weakest Autobot, his stealth more than compensates for this inadequacy. So that's the packaging for G1 Bumblebee. Now we're going to take a look at the actual Bumblebee. And here he is, the second most recognizable Transformer, in my opinion, G1 Bumblebee, and this is an original G1 Bumblebee, so I've got them all dusted off for you. I get asked sometimes, what do you do about dust in your collection? That's what I do. I take a few seconds to dust it. It's not really a big deal for me, but this is G1 Bumblebee right here. Articulation is limited. It's kind of funny going back in time and doing one of these articulation analysis on old toys that weren't really built to have articulation. This was built to be like a puzzle toy, a disguise toy. But for what it's worth, I guess he can sort of look down. His arms can do a full 360. And going in and out is part of the transformation. His feet, I guess you could say, can point down, but then he can't stand when you point his feet down. But it's something, and that's about it for him. He does have a Autobot symbol, shiny Autobot symbol on his belly, which was later replaced with the rub symbols, which would reveal Autobot and Decepticon symbols. But I've always liked this little guy here. It's really nice that for the kids who couldn't afford this guy, Optimus Prime, they had almost as prominent a character in Bumblebee that they probably could afford. Like I said, he was about the price of a G.I. Joe. This is the original version, which has a faceplate over top of his mouth. Not cartoon accurate. This would be changed for later Takara reissues and the Walmart reissue too. And a little bit of chrome. I do love G1 Transformers with chrome. It's ever so subtle, but it's in his hubcaps inside the tires there. So just a little bit of shininess going on in there. And the tires say Dunlop. See if we can get that detail in there. Look at that. Dunlop. That's awesome. So I know Prime's tires said Desert Dog, and I think it's really cool that you had different tire brands for different Transformers. And then a little bit more chrome on the back of his head here, which goes along the edges, and then he had a sticker on the back of his head. A little bit of detailing here. And that's G1 Bumblebee. So I'm going to give you a couple of comparisons here. First, I'm going to compare him with Cliff Jumper, G1 variety. Now, I always thought that Cliff Jumper and Bumblebee were basically like Prowl and Blue Streak, just basically recolor, slight remolds of each other. But they do have arms that are fairly different. Yeah, they're completely different molds for the arms. The bodies are completely different. The only thing they share might be the legs. Other than that, it's all totally new. Bottoms of the feet are different. Maybe the backs are the same, but the design, the engineering, the idea behind them is both the same. But it's interesting to actually compare them and see how different they actually are. And the second comparison is Goldbug, which he is recreated and updated into in the Return of Optimus Prime Part 2. And I know there are quite a few people who aren't fans of Goldbug, including Dan Gilvezan, but I always like that he got a little bit more attention and got updated. That's the one thing about G1 Bumblebee. He doesn't always stand so well. He sometimes falls backwards. Same with Cliff Jumper. The feet can be a little finicky. Whereas Goldbug, he will never fall backwards on you just because of how wide his base is. But I did like seeing Bumblebee get upgraded, although a better upgrade, I think a lot of people would agree, is the Pretender Bumblebee. This is the Bumblebee that is inside the Pretender shell, and I think this is what most people were hoping for a Bumblebee update. Completely different design, different mold. He's a little bit bigger. He's got the cartoon accurate face as well, and same canary yellow color as well. That's Bumblebee in robot mode with a couple of his updates. So now we're going to transform him, and this is going to be a blind transformation. It's going to be a really easy one too. Head flips down, arms pop in. The only trick is you have to make sure the arms are down low enough. If they're up too high, they'll hit this wheel well right here. So you just pop that in there. You can pop that arm in there. And the arms can be a little finicky too. Check this out. This goes in easily part of the way, and then it just stops. You have to push it hard. So a lot of Transformers have little quirks. And then the feet just pop in, clip in, and on the older guys, the arms are a bit loose and sometimes pop out like that. But that's all it takes to transform G1 Bumblebee. And he transforms into what's known as a super deformed version of a Volkswagen Beetle or Bug. And it's a really cute version of a Bug, perfectly suited for Bumblebee. He's a little guy intended to sneak in places. He's got a little bit of pep, a little bit of speed, but nothing really glamorous like a Lancia Stratos or a Lamborghini. And I love the color too, the bright canary yellow. And a couple of vehicle mode comparisons. Here's Bumblebee next to Cliff Jumper, And they are just as similar in size in vehicle mode as they are in robot mode. Nice little compact, bright fellas. And next to Goldbug, who is a little more of a realistic looking Volkswagen Beetle. Still a little bit super deformed looking, but just a little bit more realistic. And it's interesting that this guy doesn't suffer from gold plastic syndrome. I guess you can see some swirls in there, but there aren't too many issues with this guy Goldbug breaking, so I wish they had used this type of gold plastic on more Transformers. And the final comparison is with Pretender Bumblebee, also known as Classics Bumblebee. They sold these without the Pretender shell on a card. And this guy has a hole on his hood that you can place his gun into. But if you want to go without that and go with more of a G1 look, he's kind of like a more rugged, powerful looking version of G1 Bumblebee, mainly because of his tires. He's got these tires with giant treads on them, and then his bumper is a lot more pronounced too. So that was the whole concept behind Pretender Bumblebee. He's finally got a little bit of power after being the little guy, the little brother for all those years. So that is, again, a nice update, the update that we wanted in G1 of Bumblebee. So that's G1 Bumblebee. Just going to transform him back to robot mode here. Such a fun old vintage toy. Never get tired of transforming him, much like Optimus Prime. And first of many G1 Transformer reviews on this channel, I've also reviewed G1 Optimus Prime, and why he is my ultimate hero is it's kind of a combination of toy review slash retrospective tribute to Optimus Prime, and why he's my ultimate hero. Also on the Patreon, I did a Patreon exclusive of New Year Convoy, my favorite G1 Transformers reissue. So for the patrons, if you haven't checked that out, check it out. And if you haven't joined the Patreon tribe, and you're in a position to support the channel, then head over to patreon.com/MichaelMercy. I'm having some trouble here there we go. You gotta click these into place, sort of. It's kind of finicky. You see right here. See if we can get this to focus. This part right here needs to... It's kind of a feeling out thing. But these little things in here, you see these tabs, have to kind of fit in a little more securely, which will make him stand a little better. You can also move his arms forward, which helps him stand. But back to the Patreon, patreon.com/MichaelMercy, and you can check that out for all of the different ranks, all the different tier levels with all sorts of different rewards on there too. So thanks to everyone who supports the channel. Thank you for watching, for hitting like and subscribe. It means a lot to me. Really appreciate that. Hope you enjoyed this video, and the History of Transformers 85 coming soon right at you. Very excited to be sharing that with everybody. And also just finished Dan Gilvezan's book titled Bumblebee and Me, which is all about his experience working on the G1 cartoon for Sunbow and all of the zany stuff that happened during the recording sessions with all of the other amazing casts. So that's coming at you soon as well. Feel free to leave a comment below, and to join the tribe, hit subscribe. Until next time, transform and roll out!